Billionaire pretends to be poor and homeless, and beg for leftovers. What the waitress did will shock you. The first time Kelvin Wilfred begged for food, a grown man threw a dirty mop at him. "Out!" the man barked, his voice cracking like a whip. "You don't belong here. Customers are eating." The mop water soaked Kelvin's shirt, cold and sour. It ran down the wrinkles of his borrowed brown jacket and dripped into his shoes. He did not move. He could not. The smell of hot jollof rice, grilled chicken, and fried plantain floated around him like a warm hand pulling him closer. He heard forks scrape plates. He heard people whisper and laugh. And he heard his own heart ask a question it had never asked before. If I had nothing, would anyone see me? You want the truth? Kelvin could buy this entire street. He could buy the restaurant, the tall glass building above it, the next 2 blocks, and the billboard blinking neon at the corner that flashed, "Eat like a king." He was the king it was talking about, the young oil and gas lion whose name filled business pages every week. Upstream exploration. Downstream distribution. New depots. New pipelines. Clean audits. Rising market share. Healthy cash flow. A bold investment portfolio spread across energy, fintech, logistics, and even a small media company that made food shows and music videos. Board meetings. Profit margins. Forecasts. Memos. Votes. But none of that warmed the cold, stubborn gap inside his chest. Because every time he gave his heart, somebody ran numbers on it like a balance sheet. And the numbers always lied. The first woman he loved asked about wedding dates, then asked for a new car just to keep up with my office status. He bought it. 2 months later, he found the car parked outside another man's apartment. The second woman said she loved his smile. Then she sent him a business plan for a luxury spa to keep your mind relaxed. The spa could not produce receipts. The money vanished. So did she. The third woman called him my king and posted his gifts online. She liked the diamond more than his name. By 30, Kelvin learned to talk softly and walk alone. He had a security team that never failed, a personal driver who knew every shortcut in the city, and a quiet penthouse that looked like a page in a magazine. But when the lights went off at night and the city thinned to distant horns and long shadows, his chest stayed empty. He wanted one simple thing money could not buy, a friend who did not want profit. A love with no calculation. He wanted to be wanted for himself. So he decided to disappear. He told no one, not even the driver. He shaved. He grew a rough beard. He put on a torn shirt and a tired jacket. He left his watch on the side table like a sleeping snake. He rubbed a little ash on his cheeks. He stepped into the rainy evening and walked down the street like any man who had not eaten since morning. And he chose the place that always bowed for him. Bright Spoon Restaurant. His favorite. They knew his name. They whispered when he entered. They brought a special menu not written in ink. They asked, "Sir, do you need a private corner?" They dropped extra napkins like soft white flags and watched his eyes for the smallest sign of displeasure. He had eaten there 3 times a week for 2 years. Tonight, the glass door almost broke his nose. "Are you blind?" a guard snapped, blocking him with a stretched arm. "We don't allow this here." Kelvin kept his head down. "Please," he said. "I'm hungry." "Go to the canteen at the back," the guard said. "This place is for customers." Another voice joined. "Brother, don't bring flies where people are eating." Someone laughed. Someone coughed. Someone whispered, "See him. He smells like gutter." The mop came next, swinging from a thick hand, smacking wet against Kelvin's sleeve. "Move." He did not fight. That was not the test. He let the shame wash him, a cold river over a man who had always walked dry. He stepped past the guard with a bowed head. He moved into the hot, bright room where people ate under gold lights. He stood near the counter where stainless trays steamed and glass reflected his own rough face. His stomach squeezed. "Hey!" a cashier shouted. "Stand aside. People are buying." He took a breath. "Please," he said again, voice small. "Any leftovers? I can pay small coins." The cashier rolled her eyes. "We don't do that here." Kelvin let the words settle like stones. In the corner of the counter, a young woman turned. She had a thin gold earring, a simple black apron, and eyes that were too tired to be cruel. She was carrying a tray of fresh plates, her hands moving fast, her mouth tight with focus. When she saw him, she paused. Only a second. Maybe half. He saw it. That small pause. That tiny doorway where a heart looked out before the world could stop it. "Hello," she said softly. "What do you want?" He swallowed. "Anything. I'm hungry." "Money." He opened his palm. 2 coins, dull and light, lay there. The price of nothing. The cashier scoffed. "Linda, beg, ignore him. We will get in trouble," manager said. Linda kept looking at Kelvin. "You ate today?" she asked. He shook his head. Her eyes softened, then hardened like a choice made. She set down the tray. "Wait here." Kelvin waited. Seconds stretched like wet cloth. People stared, some with pity, most with disgust. He heard a man say, "This city is getting rough. Where are the police?" He heard a woman say, "If he comes near our table, I'm leaving." He held his breath and thought of times he had walked in through the same door and heard soft music, not harsh voices, seen smiles, not tight faces. He remembered the private corner by the window where he signed a major supply contract one afternoon while eating hot rice, where he guessed profit margins and laughed with his CFO, where he told the head chef, "Send water to the street. Someone looks thirsty out there." That chef bowed then, grateful. That day, he was a king. Tonight, he was a stain. Linda returned with a plate. A real plate, white and wide, glowing like a small moon in her hands. On it, hot jollof rice, orange and steamy, grilled chicken with dark edges, a small scoop of salad bright with carrots and cabbage, plantain slices, golden, sweet-smelling. She placed a bottle of water beside it. Kelvin stared. "This is not leftovers," he whispered. She gave a small smile that trembled at the edges. "It's food." "I don't have money to pay," he said. "Eat," she said. "Go and eat. You will get in trouble." "I will handle it." Her mouth tilted like a secret. "I know the back door." The cashier hissed. "Linda, are you mad?" "Manager will." Linda lifted the plate from the counter and wrapped it quickly, her hands moving with the kind of speed only fear knows. She put the water in a small brown bag and slid both into Kelvin's hands. "Go," she said softly, and now her eyes were more urgent than kind. "Before someone stops me." He felt something hot lift in his throat. It was not tears, it was a door breaking open in his chest, the empty room filling with something bright, something that smelled like rice and mercy. "Thank you," he said. 2 words he had spoken many times that never felt like this. She nodded. "Eat," she repeated. He turned, and the guard moved towards him, but Linda was faster. She stepped in front of Kelvin, body small but straight. "He's leaving," she said. "I gave him a takeaway from the staff discount. It's processed." The guard frowned. "Processed where?" Linda pointed to a side screen and tapped a few buttons so quickly it looked like a dance. "There," she said. "Staff meal. Deduct from my wages." Kelvin stopped. He looked at her. "No," he whispered, his voice trying not to break. "Don't do that." She did not look at him. Her eyes stayed on the guard. "Is there a problem?" she asked. The guard blinked. He did not want noise. He did not want drama. The room hummed with eyes and phones. He stepped back. "Go," Linda murmured again. Kelvin stepped into the rain with a warm pack of food and a bottle that felt like a small blessing in his hand. The city smelled of wet dust and traffic. Lights flickered on puddles like fish. He walked to the side of the building, under a leaking awning, and sat on a low cement block. He opened the pack. Steam kissed his face. He took a spoon of rice and it tasted like the truth, simple, hot, honest, alive. He ate slowly, the way a starving man eats when he wants to remember every grain. Luis, the night manager with a sharp voice and a sharper tie, marched outside with an umbrella and anger under his arm. He did not see Kelvin in the shadow. He saw Linda near the back door, squeezing water from a cloth, ready to return to work. "Linda," he snapped. "Inside. Now." She obeyed, passing by Kelvin without looking at him. But as she walked, something small slipped from her apron pocket and landed near Kelvin's shoe. A folded paper. He picked it up on instinct and almost called her name. But she was already gone, the door swinging closed behind her with a sigh. He unfolded the paper with damp fingers. It was a grocery list written in rushed handwriting. Milk, baby rice, small bag paracetamol, mama's knee diapers, size 2 credits, Nigerian Naira 500 for light rent, balance by Friday. His chest tightened. He looked at the back door again. He saw the truth that lingered in her eyes when she smiled, the tired kindness of someone who gives from a place that does not have enough. He thought of the staff meal she claimed. He thought of deduct from my wages. He thought of the guard's eyes and the cashier's hiss, and how a young woman had opened a door and let Mercy walk out into the rain in his hands. This was not a performance. This was a choice that cost her. He finished the meal, feeling the warm strength gather in his bones, and stood. He wanted to walk away. He wanted to keep the test clean, to come back tomorrow still invisible, to see if the world would choose him again. But a man shouting inside cracked the night. Who authorized that staff meal? It was Luis, voice loud enough to cut glass. We are not a charity. Do you want to destroy our profit? Do you know cost of goods sold? Do you know our daily revenue targets? Do you understand margins? Get in my office now. Kelvin's hand closed around the empty bottle. The instinct to protect flared up like a match. He took a step toward the door. Then he stopped, jaw tight. He had made a promise to himself. Finish the test. Feel how the world treats a man with nothing. Don't interfere. Don't break the story before it tells him what he needs to know. The door opened again suddenly. Linda came out, shoulders stiff, eyes bright with fear she tried to hide. She did not see Kelvin in the shadow. She leaned against the wall and breathed fast, pressing a hand on her apron like she was keeping her heart from falling out. Then, with a shaky laugh that was not a laugh, she pulled out a small purse, the kind that looked older than its owner, and counted out notes. They were soft from too many fingers, folded thin. She took out more than she should, slid them into a small envelope, wrote deduct, my account on it, and went back inside. He stared at the empty alley. He remembered how the world had looked at him 10 minutes ago, a stain. He remembered how she had looked at him, a person. Rain softened to a mist. Street sound swelled, then thinned. Kelvin placed the folded grocery list in his pocket like a vow and walked away from the restaurant, head still low, eyes now burning with a different kind of hunger. He crossed the street to the dark edge of a small park and sat under a jacaranda tree that shook purple flowers onto the wet ground. He was not alone. 2 boys chased each other through puddles. A couple argued softly on a bench, their words small as raindrops. A hawker pushed a cart of roasted corn, smoke sweet and white in the night. The city watched itself. Kelvin leaned back against the tree and let his mind work like a calculator that finally refused to count money. He counted something else. A pause. A plate. A lie told to protect a stranger. A wage given up. A list of needs heavier than the small purse that held them. He saw her name in his head as if it had been there all along. Linda. He whispered it, just to hear how it sounded in the rain. The phone in his pocket buzzed. Not the sleek phone he left at home. A cheap one he bought just for this game. A single message flashed from an unknown number. Are you okay? T. He stared. T was Tola, his head of security. Of course they would worry. Kelvin had left without the driver, without the route app, without the silent escort that shadowed him on hard days. He typed slowly, the keys stiff under his wet thumb. I'm fine. Don't track me. 2 days. 3 dots blinked. Then. Understood. Be careful. He turned the phone off and let the night hold him. He thought of the business words that used to give him a thrill: profit, equity, expansion, leverage, and how small they felt beside a woman's soft eat. He felt something he had not felt in years, a decision landing. Tomorrow, he would return to Bright Spoon. Not as the king. Not yet. He would learn her hours. He would learn her boss. He would leave a tip in a way that did not expose him. He would find out who needed milk, who needed medicine, who needed light. And if anyone tried to punish her for kindness, he would bury them, in policy, in law, in acquisition, in quiet power that moved like wind. But not yet. Not with the roar of his name. Quietly. Like rain sinks into soil and wakes up seeds. A car slowed on the road. For a small strange moment, Kelvin felt a familiar thing. Danger, but it passed as a taxi splashed by and turned the corner. He laughed at himself, a low soft laugh that made a bird rustle high in the branches. He had walked into rooms that could break countries. Tonight, a mop had broken him more. He closed his eyes and saw Linda's hands. Quick, firm, certain. Hands of a woman who does not consider herself a savior, only a worker. Hands that counted family needs and still made room for a stranger. Hands that shook a little when the manager shouted, then steadied as she paid for what she had given. He felt the shape of the twist to come like thunder far away. Because there are prices for kindness in a world that loves receipts. And there are receipts money cannot buy. He stood, pocketed the brown bottle, and made for the street. City lights wrapped around him like a net of small stars. He walked with a slow, steady step, the way a man walks when he is finally following something true. Behind him, in the bright box of the restaurant, a small storm was gathering. He could feel it in his bones, the way a man who has lived a life of deals can smell a meeting before anyone sends the calendar link. Luis would keep shouting. The cashier would point. Someone would say policy like it was a god. Someone would mention daily targets and cost control and cash burn and food waste. Someone would ask for Linda's apron. Tomorrow, he told himself. Tomorrow I become the storm. But tonight, he let the gift be a gift. He found a dry doorway near the bus stop, sat on the step, and watched the city pass by. A girl with a yellow umbrella sang to herself. A man in a suit ran for a taxi and lost his shoe to a puddle, then laughed like a boy. Two friends shared a plate under a stall light and argued about football like it was war. The world kept moving, shining, struggling, loving. And Kelvin, the young king of oil and gas who had dressed himself in ashes, slipped his hand into his pocket and touched the grocery list again. Milk, rice, paracetamol, diapers, light, rent. He closed his fist around the paper and whispered, to the rain, to the city, to his own stubborn heart. Tomorrow, Linda. He did not see the person in the shadow across the road lift a phone and take a photo of him. He did not see the message fly to a private group, the caption sharp and cruel, homeless near Bright Spoon. Do not let them in. They make a mess. He did not see Linda at the sink, washing plates with eyes that burned and a mouth that was a straight brave line. But he felt it all, like the first shiver before a fever breaks. The hook had been pulled. The line was tight. And the story had only just begun. By morning, Linda's kindness became a crime. A message flashed across a staff WhatsApp group at 6:12 a.m. Attention, do not give food to vagrants. We have brand risk. Cost of goods sold is rising. Daily revenue targets must be met. See Luis by 8 a.m. Under it, someone had posted a photo of Kelvin from the night before, wet jacket, bowed head, food pack in hand. The caption was short and sharp. This one again. He'll drag more like him. 2 laughing emojis. 1 vomiting emoji. Linda read it twice, then breathed in through her nose until the burn in her eyes calmed. She typed nothing. She only tightened the scarf on her hair, picked up the small purse that held her whole month, and kissed her sleeping baby on the forehead. Back by evening, she whispered. Her mother, thin, beautiful in a tired way, sat up on the mattress. Your knee? Linda asked. It will hold, Mama said, forcing a smile. Bring water when you can. And check the light card. It's blinking red. Linda nodded. The meter always blinked red. She hugged her mother, tucked the blanket around the baby, and stepped into the bright, busy morning of the city. Across town, Kelvin stared at the same photo on a different screen. Tola had texted at dawn, Sir, this image is circulating among restaurant staff groups. Source, Bright Spoon cashier. Do you want me to act? Kelvin zoomed in on the photo. Rain on his lashes. The shy curve of the bottle in his hand. Shame captured like a receipt. He typed, no noise. But we move. Then he put the cheap phone away and pulled a hoodie over his head. He left the penthouse as quietly as fog. He had not slept much. He had paced top to bottom of his heart and returned to the same decision. Finish the test, then fix the system. Not with drama. With structure. With policy. With purchase orders that moved like rain. But first, milk. Rice. Paracetamol. Diapers. Light. Rent. Before the sun was hot, a quiet chain began to move. A driver from a logistics company Kelvin partly owned, Swiftcart, received a short order on their internal app, anonymous delivery. 4 items. Address follows. A junior account officer in a microfinance firm Kelvin had seeded Palm Fund, saw a flagged rent alert with a note, balance by Friday, clear discreetly. The cashier at a neighborhood pharmacy scanned a small prescription and looked up to find a man in a cap, already paying. The prepaid meter vendor on the corner printed a token number, looked for the buyer, and found only a small brown envelope with thank you written in neat letters and a 500 Nigerian nairas tip. No names. No calls. Kelvin reached Bright Spoon 10 minutes before opening time, still in the torn jacket. He kept to the shade near the back alley. Through the kitchen window, he saw stainless counters shine like mirrors. He heard spoons clink like coins. He saw Linda tie her apron. Her face was serious, as if she were about to enter a courtroom. Luis the manager arrived at exactly 7:55 a.m., shoes loud, jaw tighter than his tie. He carried a black folder like a weapon. He did not greet. He only said, "Staff briefing." The team gathered. Kelvin moved closer to the window. Luis lifted a hand. "Quick. We open in 5. 2 things. 1. New pricing on premium combo. Push it. We need upsell. Our P&L is thinning. 2. He turned, eyes hunting. No more charity. Yesterday, someone gave a full meal to a vagrant and called it staff meal. That is fraud. Fraud pulls down profit, damages brand, and breaks policy. We are not NGO. We are not church. We are a business. Revenue is oxygen. Silence. Then, the cashier from last night pointed at Linda without moving her whole hand. A small, sharp gesture. It was her. Every throat in the room made a small sound at once. Gasp, cough, click of tongue. The kitchen clock ticked. It sounded like a judge's pen. Luis faced Linda. "Is that correct?" Linda did not drop her eyes. "He was hungry," she said. "I deducted from my wages." "Not properly," Luis snapped. "System shows no approved staff meal at that hour. Did you take food from the hotline without logging it and then fake a staff discount? Answer." "I logged it after," Linda said softly, while serving a table. "I filled the form. It is in your office box." Luis lifted the black folder like a shield. "Yes. I saw it. Unauthorized. That is not how we measure inventory. That is not how we control waste. That is not how we protect gross margin. This is oil and gas price season. Food costs up. Our EBITDA last month was below target. Do you know what EBITDA is?" Linda blinked. "I know he was hungry." A cook stifled a smile. The cashier smirked. 2 waiters looked at their shoes. Luis's mouth flattened. "Come to my office. Now." Linda untied her apron and followed the manager to the door. Kelvin's hands curled in the shadow like he was holding the edges of a storm. He reached into his pocket, felt the folded grocery list, and let it steady him. Not yet. He walked around to the front entrance and sat on the low wall like he had no reason to breathe the same air as customers. The guard saw him and hissed, but opening time was opening time. The first wave of the morning rushed in, office staff grabbing breakfast, drivers with fast steps, a soft-faced man in a suit speaking into earphones about market share, 2 friends laughing too loud to be sad. Kelvin kept his head low and his ears open. Inside, the office door closed. Luis did not sit. He liked to stand when he wanted to look taller. He held the folder to his chest, the way a man holds rules when he knows they can be bent but does not want to admit it. "Linda," he said, "you are a good worker. Fast. Calm. But you broke policy. This is a written warning. Sign." He slid a paper across the desk. Linda read the title slowly. "Final warning." She raised her eyes. "Final. This is the second time you have questioned policy. When was the first?" Her voice did not rise. "You refused to remove a mother who was breastfeeding. She was not a customer. She had bought a bottle of water. She was distracting customers." Linda swallowed. "I treated her like a person." Luis tapped the paper with a pen. "This is not personal. This is business. Compliance. Cost control. Brand." Linda stared at the pen. Behind her quiet face, something heavy turned. "I will sign," she said. "But I will still feed a hungry person again, even if it is 1 spoon. I can't watch a stomach cry." Luis's nostrils flared. He took back the paper. "Then you will also sign this." He laid down a second paper, suspension without pay 7 days. Linda's fingers trembled, then steadied. Sir, my rent. Not my problem, he said. Sign. Or resign. Her mouth opened, shut, opened again. She signed. The pen made a shaky path across the page, a small animal trying to run. Leave your apron, Louise said. Collect your bag. Go. She placed the apron on the chair like it was a sleeping child. She left the office with her head high. The cashier watched her pass with a thin smile. One waiter whispered sorry, as if he had dropped a spoon. Kelvin stood when he saw her step into the alley to breathe. He moved closer, then stopped. Let her choose her own air. She sat on a low crate, pulled out her small purse, and counted. The notes looked smaller in daylight. She closed her eyes, whispering numbers like prayers. Kelvin heard one word clearly, rent. He reached into his jacket and took out a small brown envelope. Inside, the prepaid meter token. A pharmacy receipt. A folded note. He had planned to give it to her through the storekeeper, pretending to be a delivery rider. But Luis had pushed the day into a different shape. He approached slowly. Good morning, he said, voice low, rough. Linda opened her eyes. She remembered the voice as fast as a heartbeat. Her face softened, then tensed. You, she whispered. Are you okay? He nodded. I came to say thank you. She glanced at the restaurant door. You shouldn't be here, she said. They will shout again. I will be quick. He held out the brown envelope. Someone asked me to give you this. Who? Kelvin kept his eyes on the ground. A friend. He saw what happened yesterday. He said to tell you, thank you for being human. Her gaze went to the envelope, then back to him. Suspicion fought with hope in her eyes. I can't take money, she said. It's not money, he replied. It's helpful things. What kind? Just things. He pushed the envelope gently toward her. Please. Her fingers brushed his for a second. A warm shock moved up his arm like electricity. She opened the envelope with care. She pulled out the small slip first, the prepaid meter token, and pressed a hand to her mouth. Then the pharmacy receipt, with a paracetamol and a simple knee support band. Then the folded note. She read, for Mama's knee. For light. For a baby who drinks milk like the sun drinks rain. Thank you. A friend of kindness. Her eyes filled with water cleaner than last night's rain. She blinked hard, swallowed, then looked at him with something like curiosity wrapped in fear. Who are you? She asked. Kelvin almost said his name. He almost tore the story open and poured his truth out. But the test still had work to do. He shook his head. No one, he said softly. Just a man who ate because you gave. She held the note like it might fly away. You don't look like a no one, she murmured. Neither do you, he answered. A sharp voice cut the air. You. It was the guard. Move from here. Staff area is not for you. Go to the road. Linda stood quickly. He is leaving, she said. Give me 1 minute. The guard's eyes hardened. You are suspended, he replied. You have no minutes here. Something hot rose in Kelvin's chest. Before he could speak, Linda turned to the guard. Please, she said, not begging, only balancing. Let him go. The guard hesitated, then stepped back, eyes still sharp. Hurry. Linda turned to Kelvin. Thank your friend, she said. Tell him I will pay back. Kelvin shook his head. He said no payback. Only pay forward. She smiled, a small, tired, beautiful smile that looked like morning. I can do that, she whispered. They both stepped toward the street at the same time, and for a second, their shoulders almost touched. Kelvin smelled soap and smoke and something like mango. Linda smelled rain and dust and something like old books. At the corner, a car rolled up, black, quiet, expensive without trying. The back window slid down an inch. Tola's voice floated out like a shadow, Sir. Kelvin froze. Linda's eyes flicked to the car, then to him. Something did not match. Torn jacket. Quiet car. A thread of suspicion pulled in her mind. Kelvin did not look at the window. He kept his face turned away. Wrong person, he said low. Tola understood immediately. The window slid up. The car eased forward like a cat and disappeared into traffic. Linda studied Kelvin for one beat too long. Then she nodded to herself, turned the note over like it was a coin from a good country, and tucked it back into the envelope. "Be safe," she said. "And you," he answered. She walked away, back into the day with a suspension letter in her bag and light in her pocket. Kelvin watched until she turned the corner, then exhaled the breath he had been holding since the car crept near. He would have let the day breathe there, but Bright Spoon was not done. A customer, a heavy man with a gold watch and a voice that liked to be heard, stormed out of the restaurant, waving his receipt. "Manager," he shouted, pointing at Kelvin like he was pointing at a stain on his shirt. "I will not eat in a place that feeds beggars. What is this? Is this a soup kitchen? I pay for brand. I pay for premium experience. Are we in a slum?" Luis rushed out, posture folding into apology. "Sir, I assure you." The man's voice rose. "No assurance. I am posting now." He lifted his phone, camera already open. "See this man? He is the one. My followers will not step here again if this continues." Kelvin did not move. He had been photographed by men richer and men poorer. Cameras were only mirrors with teeth. He looked at Luis and saw fear, not of hunger, not of human eyes, but of numbers, daily revenue target, gross margin, cost control. He understood fear. Fear builds companies and breaks people. He spoke quietly, to Luis, not to the camera. "What is your KPI?" he asked. "Only money? Or also people?" Luis blinked. "Leave," he snapped, voice thin now. "Security." Two guards stepped forward. Kelvin lifted his hands. No fight. No drama. He turned and walked away slowly, like a man walking out of a courtroom he knew he would one day own. Behind him, the Gold Watch man posted his video. It gathered views fast. Rage spreads quicker than rain. Comments flashed. Chase them. "City is dirty. Where is government?" One comment, lonely and small, said, "Feed who you can." Tola's car reappeared 3 streets away. Kelvin slid into the back seat without a word. Tola did not ask questions. He only drove. "Palm fund." Kelvin said at last. "Rent balance, cleared," Tola replied. "Landlord received. No name. Swift cart. Milk and diapers delivered to her door by 9:15. Signature, her mother. Pharmacy. Done. Meter token. Delivered with a neighbor's help. They recognized you? No. Kelvin nodded. The city blurred past the window, billboards bragging, hawkers weaving, sunlight shaking on windshields. He closed his eyes for a second. "Next," he said, "I want Bright Spoon's books." Tola's hands did not leave the wheel. Books. Financial statements. Franchise agreement. Lease. Supplier list. Food safety reports. HR policy. Look for cracks, unpaid overtime, illegal deductions, inventory write-offs, waste ratios. You know what to do. Tola smiled without showing teeth. Due diligence. Quietly, Kelvin said, as a potential investor. Use our family office, not the holding company. Yes, sir. Kelvin opened his eyes. The city still moved. His heart moved with it. He was no longer only a man in a torn jacket. He was a man with a plan. By noon, a polite email sat in Bright Spoon's corporate inbox. We represent a private family office exploring minority stakes in fast-growing QSR brands with strong cash flow and brand equity. We are impressed by your footprint and unit economics. Kindly share a data room, store-level P&L, cost of goods sold trends, labor policy, and brand guidelines. Discretion guaranteed. Luis did not see that email. He was busy arguing with a supplier about chicken prices and yelling at a dishwasher about water bills. But the owner, who cared about equity and expansion and exit multiples, saw it, and his eyes filled with numbers that looked very much like hope. At sunset, Linda returned home with a suspension letter under her arm. She opened the door to find her mother in tears, not from pain, but from light. The meter hummed, steady and green. A small bag of milk sat on the table beside diapers. The baby slept like a soft promise. Linda pressed both hands to her mouth and laughed the kind of laugh that heals a day. Who? She whispered. Her mother pointed to the brown envelope. A boy from the next street, Mama said. He said, a friend. He said, pay forward. Linda looked at the note again, and then at the ceiling like she could see through it to the wide sky. She did not know that, across the city, a young billionaire had taken off a torn jacket, folded it carefully, and placed it on a chair like a friend. She did not know he stood by a large window and watched the night come, his mind drawing lines. Audit, policy, equity, protection. She did not know he whispered her name, once, like a prayer said to a God who likes small things done quietly. She only knew the light was on. And somewhere inside the hum of that small victory, the twist began to turn. Because before midnight, a new video surfaced, security camera footage from the alley behind Bright Spoon. It showed Linda giving the brown envelope to a homeless man. It showed the guard pointing. It showed the man walking away. The cashier posted it with a cold caption, "So she takes money now?" The comments began to burn. Tomorrow would not be quiet. Kelvin's chest tightened when Tola forwarded the clip. He felt the storm climb his spine. "Sir?" Tola asked. Kelvin's answer was a whisper that sounded like steel. "Tomorrow, we change the weather." By dawn, the city already carried Linda's name on its back like a burden. The video of her handing the brown envelope to Kelvin spread from one phone to another. Taxi drivers watched it at bus stops. Hairdressers whispered about it over customers' heads. Even office staff, still buttoning their shirts, argued on WhatsApp. She's collecting money from beggars. Or maybe she's helping him. Please, in this Lagos, nobody does free kindness. Oh. The fire of gossip does not need wood, it only needs air. When Linda reached the restaurant gate, she felt the stairs before she saw them. The guard who once nodded at her now folded his arms tight, eyes hard as stone. Two waitresses leaned close, whispering. One giggled, hand covering her mouth. Luis stood in the doorway, phone in hand, his smile thin. "You have made us famous," he said coldly. "Do you know the damage to brand reputation? This is trending. My boss is calling every 5 minutes. Customers are asking if we are now sponsoring beggars." "I didn't do anything wrong," Linda replied, her voice soft but steady. "Wrong." Luis's eyebrows shot up. "The world saw you take money from that man. Fraud, bribery, corruption. Do you know how fragile unit economics are in food service? Our net profit margin is below 5%. 5. And you are feeding beggars and collecting envelopes." "It was not like that," Linda said, clutching her purse. "That envelope was, it was nothing like you think. But in business, perception is stronger than truth." "Go home," Luis ordered. "Indefinite suspension until further notice." The words struck like a hammer. Indefinite. That meant no pay. No rent. No milk. Across the city, Kelvin sat in his study, the video playing on a widescreen. Tola stood nearby, arms folded. Kelvin's jaw tightened. "They are destroying her for the kindness that saved me." "Sir," Tola said carefully, Bright Spoon is small. Franchise chain. They don't know who they are dealing with. One word from you." Kelvin raised a hand. "No. Not yet. If I appear as myself, the truth will vanish. They'll say she acted for benefits. They'll rewrite her kindness as strategy. No. We let them finish their noise. Then we speak with numbers they cannot silence." Kelvin's eyes sharpened. "Financial statements. Due diligence. We find every crack they have hidden. Tax leaks. Labor violations. Supplier fraud. Once we hold their truth, we buy them. And when we own them, we change the rules." Tola's lips curved in a slow smile. "Revenge through acquisition." "Not revenge," Kelvin corrected. "Justice with receipts." That evening, Linda's landlord came knocking. He was a short man with a big stomach and a louder voice. He slapped the wooden door with a flat hand. "Madam Linda," he shouted. "I see you on video, spreading money to beggars, but you cannot finish your rent? Tomorrow morning, bring my balance or leave my house." Linda opened the door slowly. "Uncle, please." "I didn't." "No story," he cut her off. "Do I look like Bright Spoon? I am not a charity. No pay, no stay." Her mother came limping out, the baby in her arms. "Please, sir, give us time. She lost her work today. At least let the baby rest." But money has no ears. The landlord spat on the ground and stormed off. Linda closed the door with shaking hands. She sat on the floor, tears threatening. She remembered the brown envelope, the prepaid token, the paracetamol. Someone had seen her pain. Someone had helped. But now that very help was being twisted into a chain. Night fell heavy. Kelvin wore his torn jacket again, pulled a cap low, and walked the back streets until he reached Linda's small compound. Children chased a tire in the dust. Women fried akara by the roadside. He smelled smoke and oil and desperation. He found her door by the light of a single kerosene lamp. He was about to knock when he heard voices inside. "Linda," her mother whispered, "you cannot go back there. They will use you. People love money more than truth." "But how do we survive?" Linda asked, voice breaking. "Mama, I can't sit here while rent chokes us. I must find another job." Kelvin pressed his back to the wall, heart pounding. He wanted to step in to tell her everything, that he was no beggar, that he was the man who could clear her rent, her worries, her whole street. But his chest remembered the emptiness of yesterday. He had promised himself this test. To see who could love him when he had nothing. So he knocked softly, like a stranger. Linda opened the door. When she saw him, her eyes widened. "You." He nodded. "I heard what they said about you. I came to tell you. I know the truth." Her lips trembled. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to cry on his shoulder. But all she said was, "Why are you here?" Kelvin looked at the baby sleeping on a thin mattress. He looked at her mother rubbing her swollen knee. He looked back at Linda. "Because kindness should not be punished," he said simply. "And I will not let you fall." She studied him in silence. She saw the tired jacket, but she also saw something deeper in his eyes. Strength, power, a storm waiting to break. And for the first time, a small dangerous thought touched her heart. Who really is this man? The gossip was still burning in the city. But in that small room, under the weak light of a kerosene lamp, something stronger than gossip had begun to grow. The kind of fire no water could put out. By sunrise, Bright Spoon's head office was already on fire, not with flames, but with phone calls. The video had reached the top. The franchise owner, Mr. Collins, a sleek man with polished shoes and a polished tongue, slammed his desk. What kind of brand risk is this? A waitress caught feeding beggars and taking envelopes on camera. He jabbed at the screen. Do you know how fast customers can destroy a company with social media? In this business, perception is profit. Luis's voice stuttered over the phone from the branch. "Sir, we suspended her immediately." "Not enough," Collins barked. "Bring the girl in. Today. I want to see her face and hear her story." Luis swallowed. "Yes, sir." Linda was boiling water for pap when her cheap phone rang. The number was unknown. She almost didn't pick up. "Hello. Is this Linda?" A sharp female voice cut through. "Yes. This is Bright Spoon head office. Report here by 11 a.m. sharp. Your matter has reached management. Come prepared to explain yourself." Linda's chest went cold. "But I am suspended." "Suspension doesn't clear you. Report or lose your job permanently." The line cut. Her mother looked up from the mattress, eyes worried. "What is it?" "They want me at the head office." "Do you think they will listen?" Linda forced a smile. "Mama, truth doesn't need makeup. If they listen, I'll be fine." But her hands shook as she tied her scarf. On the other side of the city, Kelvin was no longer in rags. Not yet in suits either, but in a clean shirt and quiet sneakers. He sat at a long table, laptop open, financial files glowing across the screen. Tola laid down a folder. "Preliminary report, sir. Bright Spoon's numbers are not clean. Staff wages delayed. Suppliers unpaid for weeks. Kitchen staff on paper earn more than what's paid in reality. Excess deductions. Illegal overtime. And listen to this, food wastage disguised as charity write-offs but no receipts. Someone is pocketing money." Kelvin's jaw clenched. "Luis." "Most likely," Tola agreed. "We even found hints of kickbacks from chicken suppliers." Kelvin closed the laptop with a soft click. "Good. That means they need cash flow. Which means when I appear with an offer, they'll smile." And Linda. Kelvin stood, sliding the grocery list back into his pocket. Today she faces lions. I'll be in the shadows. If they try to break her, I'll buy the cage. At 11 a.m., Linda stood in front of Bright Spoon's glass headquarters. Tall building, shiny logo, busy reception. Her scarf felt too simple. Her shoes too worn. She walked in, heart loud, and told the receptionist her name. The woman's eyes narrowed slightly. Wait. Minutes stretched. Then a tall man in a blue suit stepped out, Mr. Collins himself. His smile was thin as wire. Linda. Come. He led her into a boardroom with polished wood, cold air conditioning, and two other men in ties. A recorder blinked red on the table. Sit, Collins said. Linda sat. Her palms pressed hard together in her lap. Collins leaned forward. Linda, you know why you're here. Our brand is on the line. Customers believe you collected money from a beggar. That cannot happen in this company. We deal with margins, not mercy. Explain yourself. Linda's throat was dry. She breathed once. Twice. Then she spoke. I gave him food because he was hungry, not because of money. That envelope, her voice shook, but she forced it steady. It was not from him. It was for me. Someone saw I helped, and they wanted to say thank you. I didn't ask. I didn't take bribe. I only did what a human being should do. One of the men snorted. So you're saying this was charity? We are not running an NGO, young lady. We are running a business. Cost of goods sold is rising. Profit margins are tight. Every plate counts. Linda's eyes filled, but she held her voice firm. A business that forgets people will not last. Profit is good, but what is profit if the brand is cruel? I would rather lose a day's wages than watch someone starve. The boardroom went quiet. Collins drummed his fingers. Pretty speech. But this isn't about your emotions. This is about brand control. And as far as we see it, you embarrassed us. He slid a paper across the table. Termination letter. Sign, he said. Linda's hand froze. Termination. That meant no salary. No clearance. No reference. No hope. Her chest tightened, and for the first time, she almost broke. Behind the tinted glass wall of the boardroom, Kelvin watched unseen. He had walked in minutes earlier under the guise of a potential investor, escorted politely by Collins's assistant. Now he stood still, every word carving itself into his heart. He saw Linda's trembling hands. He saw the cruel smirk on Collins's lips. He saw the cold ledger of a company that counted profit but not people. And he knew the time for shadows was closing. Linda picked up the pen, ready to sign. Her hand shook. She thought of her mother's knee, the rent, the baby's milk. Her eyes blurred. And just as the pen touched paper, a calm voice cut the silence. Don't sign that. The board members turned, startled. The glass door opened. Kelvin walked in, no longer hunched, no longer ragged. His posture was tall. His eyes were fire. Collins frowned. Who are you? This is a private session. Kelvin smiled faintly. Private? Not anymore. My name is Kelvin Wilfred. The room froze. The air itself seemed to stop. Because every man in that room knew the name. Oil and gas. Energy pipelines. Shipping depots. Investments. Net worth whispered in billions. The young lion of the industry. And here he was, in their boardroom. Collins blinked fast. And Mr. Wilfred, sir, we didn't expect. Kelvin's voice cut sharp. You didn't expect the man you mocked as a beggar to walk in here. But here I am. And I am here for one reason, this woman. He pointed at Linda. She gasped, staring at him as if seeing him for the first time. The silence that followed was louder than thunder. And in that silence, the story shifted. The billionaire had revealed himself. The lions were no longer hunting Linda. They were prey. The pen slipped from Linda's fingers and clattered onto the polished table. Her eyes widened, her breath caught. Billionaire? Her heart stumbled in her chest. Collins and the other executives scrambled to adjust their ties. Their faces turned pale, as if every number on their profit sheets had suddenly gone red. Kelvin stepped further into the boardroom, his presence filling the space like a storm pressing against windows. His torn jacket was gone. In its place, a crisp shirt, simple but sharp, his hair brushed, his eyes fierce. He was no longer a beggar in the rain. He was the young king of oil and gas, the man newspapers called the future of Africa's energy market. "Mr. Wilfred," Collins stuttered, his smile stretched too thin. "We had no idea." "You had no idea because you never look past your profit margin," Kelvin cut him off. His voice was calm, but it hit like steel. He placed the folded grocery list on the table, smooth and deliberate. "This," he said, tapping it with one finger, "is what you don't see. Milk for a baby. Medicine for a mother's knee. Rent to keep a roof from falling. Do you see EBITDA here? Do you see cost of goods sold? Or do you see survival?" No one answered. Kelvin's eyes swept across them. "You run your franchise with spreadsheets and slogans, but you forgot the people carrying trays, washing plates, sweating in your kitchens. You punish kindness because it doesn't fit into your unit economics. Yet kindness is the only reason brands survive. Customers don't come back for numbers. They come back for humanity." One of the board members cleared his throat. "Mr. Wilfred, with all due respect, this is an internal HR matter. We..." Kelvin cut him off with a small, sharp smile. "Internal? No. I'm about to make it very external. You see, Bright Spoon is on my desk right now. I've been reviewing your books. And I don't like what I see." He opened a folder Tola had slipped into his hand earlier. Pages of charts, statements, and receipts spread like evidence. Delayed wages. Unpaid suppliers. Illegal deductions from staff salaries. Food wastage hidden as charity write-offs. And kickbacks, yes kickbacks, from chicken suppliers. Shall I continue? Collins's face drained of blood. Where did you? Kelvin leaned forward, voice low but deadly. "A company that treats honesty as a crime and theft as policy does not deserve to stand. And yet, I am willing to buy it. Every branch. Every franchise. Right now." The board members exchanged frantic looks. "Buy?" one whispered. "Yes," Kelvin said, his tone final. "At a price that reflects your rot. Low. Very low. I will pay off your debts, clear your suppliers, fix your broken structure. But under one condition." He turned his gaze to Linda. His voice softened. "This woman keeps her job. Not just as a waitress, but as the face of a new policy. Kindness is no longer a crime in Bright Spoon. It is the rule." Linda's chest pounded. She stared at him, at the man she had thought was a hungry stranger. The man she had fed with rice and chicken. The man who had walked into her world with torn clothes and quiet eyes. Now, he stood like a wall of power between her and her enemies. Her lips trembled. You're Kelvin Wilfred?" Kelvin turned to her, his expression softening, his fire dimming just for her. "Yes. And the truth is, I came to your restaurant not for food, but for something money cannot buy. I wanted to know if kindness still lived in this city. And you," his voice thickened, "you gave it to me." Linda's breath caught. She felt the weight of every eye on her, but in that moment, she only saw him. Collins licked his lips nervously. "Mr. Wilfred, perhaps we can renegotiate terms." "There will be no negotiation," Kelvin interrupted. "You either sign this company over to me and let me rebuild it, or I will expose every number in this folder to the press, to your creditors, and to the tax office. By tomorrow morning, Bright Spoon will be nothing but smoke." The boardroom sank into silence. The only sound was the recorder's red light blinking like a heartbeat. Collins's hand shook as he reached for a pen. "Fine," he whispered. "You will have it." Kelvin smiled coldly. Wise decision. When the papers were signed, Kelvin turned back to Linda. His eyes softened again, his voice low enough only for her. "You stood alone in this room, and you didn't bend," he said. "That courage, that heart, it's worth more than every figure in their books." Linda's eyes filled with tears, but this time, they weren't from fear. "Why me?" she whispered. "Why would someone like you care about someone like me?" Kelvin stepped closer, his gaze steady. "Because when I was nothing in your eyes, you still cared. You didn't see a billionaire or a beggar. You saw a human being. And that," he said, his voice breaking gently, "is all I've ever wanted." The executives shifted uncomfortably, unable to meet Linda's eyes. They had watched her kindness mocked, her name dragged, her job stripped. And now, in a single moment, the tables had turned. Linda stood taller, not with power, but with dignity. Kelvin reached for her hand, not as a beggar, not as a billionaire, but as a man who had finally found the truth he had been searching for. And as their fingers touched, a silence heavier than money filled the room. It was the silence of a lesson written in the heart. True wealth is not in companies or accounts. It is in kindness that cannot be bought, sold, or silenced. By the next morning, the city was no longer whispering, it was shouting. Headlines screamed across blogs and online papers. Beggar in viral video turns out to be billionaire Kelvin Wilfred. Bright Spoon franchise bought overnight, new policy, kindness first. Waitress who fed homeless man saves her job, wins billionaire's heart. Taxi drivers argued about it at bus stops. Hawkers shouted the news as they sold bread. Office workers scrolled through their phones, wide-eyed. Mothers told their children, "Be kind, you never know who you are helping." The city that mocked Linda yesterday was now repeating her name like a hymn. Linda walked to the market to buy baby food, her scarf tied tightly. But she couldn't walk 10 steps without someone pointing. That's her. The waitress. God bless you, Linda. You didn't know he was a billionaire, yet you fed him. May your life never lack. She forced a shy smile, her cheeks hot. For the first time, people weren't laughing at her poverty, they were praising her humanity. Still, she felt uneasy. Fame was a fire, and fire could burn. At noon, Kelvin and Linda walked into the Bright Spoon branch where it all began. The same restaurant that had chased him out with a mop now opened its doors wide. Cameras flashed as reporters waited outside. Inside, a banner hung above the counter. New policy, no one leaves hungry. Employees whispered as they saw Kelvin beside Linda. Luis, the once arrogant manager, stood in the corner, sweating. He had been stripped of authority overnight, his position reduced, his voice silenced. Kelvin stood before the staff. This place will run differently now. Fair wages. No more illegal deductions. No more punishing kindness. Anyone who feeds a hungry person will not be warned, they will be rewarded. Applause erupted. Staff clapped, some with tears in their eyes. Linda stood quietly, her heart pounding. But outside, the fire of gossip burned again. She's lucky. That girl just got rich overnight. Don't be fooled. Maybe she knew who he was all along. A beg, nobody is that innocent. Love without benefits? In this city? Impossible. The same city that lifted her name was already looking for a way to drag it back down. Linda overheard some of it as she stepped out with Kelvin. She bit her lip. They think I used you, she whispered. Kelvin turned to her, his eyes calm. Let them talk. Truth doesn't argue, it proves itself. But it hurts, she admitted. I only wanted to do what was right. Now people think it was strategy. Kelvin touched her hand gently. Linda, yesterday you were mocked for giving. Today you are mocked for receiving. This world will always talk. What matters is this, he placed her folded grocery list in her palm. You gave when you had nothing to gain. That is truth. That is love. Her eyes filled. She gripped the list tightly as if it was treasure. That evening, Kelvin's driver pulled up outside Linda's small compound. Children gathered, whispering, "See the car." Neighbors peeked through curtains. Kelvin stepped out, not in a suit, but in a simple shirt. He walked to Linda's door, ignoring the stares. Her mother opened it, shocked. Mr. Wilfred. Kelvin smiled warmly. Mama, please. Call me Kelvin. He stepped inside, looked around the humble room, and then looked at Linda. I came to ask something, he said, voice steady. Not as a billionaire. Not as a businessman. As a man who has searched too long for honesty. Linda's heart raced. Ask what? He took a breath. Come with me. Not for money. Not for fame. Just, come with me. Let me show you a life where kindness isn't punished but celebrated. A life where you are loved for who you are, not what you can give. Silence filled the room. Her mother's eyes shone. The baby stirred softly. Linda's lips trembled. Kelvin. I don't know if I can step into your world. People will say I'm only after your wealth. Kelvin's eyes burned with quiet fire. Then let them talk. Let them choke on their lies. We'll live the truth. News spread like wild harmattan wind, the billionaire and the waitress. Some laughed. Some doubted. Some envied. But many learned. Parents told their children, kindness may look small, but it can build empires. Pastors preached about it on Sunday. Teachers used it as examples in classrooms. And for once, in a city that often bowed to money, people remembered that the richest gift was humanity. That night, Linda stood by her small window, looking at the stars. She whispered, "Mama was right. Kindness never dies." Behind her, Kelvin stood silently, watching her, knowing he had finally found the one thing his billions could not buy. The city could talk, gossip could roar, but in that quiet room, two hearts had written their own truth. A truth louder than money. A truth called love without benefits. The city woke up to a new kind of billboard. Where once Bright Spoon advertised combo meals and eat like a king, a new message now stretched across Lagos highways in bold red letters. No one leaves hungry, a Kelvin Wilfred company. People stopped to take photos. Taxi drivers pointed at it with pride. And slowly, Bright Spoon became more than a restaurant, it became a statement. Kelvin moved fast. Within 2 weeks, every Bright Spoon branch received a new policy manual. Fair wages, no more illegal deductions. Charity meals, 1 hot plate per day for anyone who couldn't pay. Transparency audits, every coin tracked, every bribe cut. The staff, who once whispered in fear of managers, now worked with pride. For the first time, kitchen boys took food home without hiding. Waitresses walked with heads high. Even customers noticed the change. Service warmer, smiles genuine. But with the transformation came noise. Investors whispered that Kelvin was wasting money on pity. Analysts asked, how will this kindness affect profit margins? Rivals smirked, waiting for failure. Kelvin only smiled. Kindness is the highest form of brand equity. You'll see. Meanwhile, Linda's life flipped like a page. She could no longer walk through the market without stares. People whispered, that's her, the billionaire's waitress. Some smiled with admiration. Others rolled their eyes. One woman muttered, loud enough to sting, she just got lucky. If not for him, she'd still be washing plates. Linda felt the words sink deep. That night, she told her mother, I don't fit in his world. People think I'm a gold digger. Her mother touched her cheek gently. Let them think. Truth is not what people say. Truth is what you live. Remember the day you gave him food? You didn't know who he was. That is your truth. Hold it. Still, doubt lingered like a shadow. Kelvin sensed it. One evening, he invited Linda to dinner at his penthouse. The place glowed with soft lights, glass walls revealing the city skyline, cars below like blinking fireflies. Linda stepped in, her simple gown hugging her in ways that made her feel both shy and beautiful. She looked around, marble floors, leather couches, shelves of books, art that seemed to breathe. This is your world, she whispered, almost afraid to move. Kelvin walked beside her. This is my house, he said gently. But you are my world. Her breath caught. They sat. He served her himself, not waiters, not staff. Jollof rice, chicken, plantain, the same meal she had once given him. She looked at the plate and laughed softly. You remembered. I'll never forget, he said, his eyes never leaving hers. But as they ate, Kelvin's phone buzzed with messages. Reports. Headlines. One caught Linda's eye before he turned it over. Waitress turned billionaire's love interest, Cinderella or opportunist. Her face fell. They think I'm here for money. Kelvin reached across the table, taking her hand. Let them. I know the truth. I was nothing when you met me, and you gave me everything I needed, dignity. That cannot be bought. Her eyes filled. But can I survive in your world? Suits, deals, cameras. I'm just a waitress. Kelvin's voice softened, steady as stone. No, you're not just anything. You're the only person who ever saw me without the price tag. And that is what makes you strong enough for any world. But outside the glow of their dinner, not everyone was happy with this new chapter. In a dim office, Luis, the disgraced manager, sat with a glass of cheap gin. His eyes burned as he watched the news. His career was ruined. His name dragged. His pride shredded. And all because of her. He slammed the glass down. "That waitress," he spat. "She took everything from me. I'll make her regret it." He picked up his phone and dialed a number. "Yes. I have information about Kelvin Wilfred. Information that could burn him. Meet me tomorrow." His lips twisted into a cruel smile. "Let's see if kindness can save her when I'm done." In Kelvin's penthouse, Linda leaned on the balcony, looking out at the city lights. Kelvin stood beside her, his arm warm around her shoulders. For the first time, she let herself believe, maybe love without benefits could survive even in a city ruled by greed. But far away in the shadows, envy was already sharpening its knife. And soon, both love and kindness would be put to the fiercest test yet. The city had barely adjusted to the fairy tale of the billionaire and the waitress when a darker story began to slither through the cracks. Luis, the former manager, the man stripped of power overnight, wasn't ready to disappear quietly. His pride had been wounded deeper than money could heal. And wounded pride is the birthplace of revenge. Late one night, in the back room of a dingy bar, Luis sat with two men. One wore a cheap suit with eyes too sharp to trust. The other carried a camera bag, the kind that smelled of dirty headlines. Luis leaned forward, his voice dripping with spite. "You want a story? I'll give you one. Kelvin Wilfred, your so-called young lion, didn't just buy Bright Spoon out of kindness. No. He's hiding something. He disguised himself as a beggar to play games with us. A billionaire playing poor? That's deception. That's fraud of image. That girl, Linda? She's not innocent. She knew more than she pretends." The journalist smirked. "And you can prove this." Luis dropped a flash drive on the table. Security footage. Meetings. Records. And gossip, the kind people love to believe. The man in the cheap suit nodded. "People don't need the truth. They need a headline. We'll paint her as a schemer, a gold digger who trapped a billionaire with pity." Luis's lips curled. "Good. Let them destroy her name. Let Kelvin choke on his kindness." They shook hands over the deal. By morning, the story spread like wildfire. Waitress or witch? Sources claim Linda trapped billionaire with fake kindness. Leaked footage shows Kelvin pretending to be poor. Public manipulation? Is this a love story, or the biggest scam of the year? Screens lit up across the city. Markets buzzed. Offices hummed. Gossip boiled hotter than tea. "Ah, I told you she wasn't innocent," one woman shouted in a bus. A waitress just happens to find a billionaire? A beg, nah scam." Kelvin? A genius in oil and gas, but he falls for a street girl? Something no balance here. The city that once praised Linda now sharpened its tongue against her. Linda sat in her mother's small room, phone buzzing with messages she didn't want to read. Some were kind, "We believe you." But most were poison, gold digger, opportunist, actress. Her mother tried to comfort her. "Child, people will always talk." But Linda's shoulders shook. "Mama, they are tearing me apart. I never asked for any of this. I only gave a plate of food. Why is kindness punished twice?" She buried her face in her hands, sobbing quietly. The baby stirred, crying too, as if sharing her pain. At his corporate tower, Kelvin slammed the newspaper onto the table. "Trash." His voice boomed across the room. "They think they can smear her? They think they can twist truth into lies." Tola, calm as ever, adjusted his glasses. "It's Luis. He's feeding them poison. He wants to drag her reputation through the mud so the world doubts her. And if she falls, sir, you fall too." Kelvin paced the room. His empire stretched across oil rigs, pipelines, tank farms, investment portfolios worth billions. But all of it felt fragile when compared to Linda's trembling shoulders. "They want to test me," he growled. "Fine. I'll show them what happens when fire meets steel." That evening, Kelvin drove himself, no chauffeur, no guards, to Linda's home. She opened the door, her eyes swollen from crying. "Why did you come?" she whispered. "You should protect your empire. They're saying I used you. They'll ruin you if you stay with me." Kelvin stepped in, his voice low but firm. Linda, listen to me. My empire can rebuild 1,000 times. But if I lose you because of lies, then I am truly ruined. I don't care what they say. I only care about us. Her tears fell harder. But can love survive when the whole world doubts it? Kelvin cupped her face in his hands, eyes blazing. Love is not a press release. Love is not a stock price. Love is not for sale. It survives because it is truth, and truth doesn't break, no matter how loud the lies. Linda's breath shook. For the first time that day, she believed him. Luis's next move. But far away, in his small apartment, Luis poured another glass of gin and smiled at the chaos he had unleashed. This is only the beginning, he muttered. Tomorrow, I release the recordings. Let's see how the mighty Kelvin Wilfred explains disguising himself as a beggar to fool the world. He raised the glass in a mocking toast. Let's see if true love can survive when the world turns it into a scandal. The city woke up to thunder, not from the sky, but from the screens. Luis had kept his word. Clips from Bright Spoon security cameras now flooded social media. Kelvin in his ragged jacket, sneaking through the kitchen alley, Linda handing him the brown envelope. The footage was cut and twisted with captions that screamed louder than truth. Fake homeless billionaire tricks waitress into charity. Linda takes cash from mysterious envelope, set up all along. Love story or publicity stunt? The comments were crueler than knives. Everything na script. Billionaire and waitress, a beg leave story. She act well Shah, should try Nollywood. Kelvin thinks say we be moo moo. Oil money na scam love. At Kelvin's company headquarters, his executives panicked. Sir, our stock is shaking, one director said, sweat on his forehead. Investors want answers, another added. They're asking if this whole Bright Spoon project is a vanity stunt. We need a press release immediately, a third suggested. Deny everything. Distance yourself from the girl. Kelvin stood at the head of the table, silent, his jaw like stone. When he finally spoke, his words cut the air. Distance myself? From Linda. His eyes burned. She is the only truth in this entire mess. If the world doubts me, so be it. But I will never deny her. The room went silent. Back at her small home, Linda shut her phone off. The messages were too much. Opportunist. Enjoy your money while it lasts. Shame on you. Her mother tried to comfort her. Child, lies run fast, but truth has stronger legs. But Linda shook her head, tears spilling. Mama, maybe I should walk away. Maybe Kelvin will be better without me. His empire is too big to carry the weight of my name. The baby cried. Linda rocked him, whispering, Hush, little one. Don't cry like your mother. That evening, Kelvin arrived. Linda stood at the doorway, eyes red. Kelvin, she whispered, maybe we should stop. The world won't let us breathe. They're tearing you down because of me. Kelvin stepped closer, his voice fierce. No, Linda. They are tearing us down because truth scares them. But I won't let go. I didn't fight oil cartels, foreign investors, and rival billionaires just to lose to gossip. But what about your empire? She asked, her voice cracking. What if you lose everything? Kelvin cupped her face gently. Then I'll build again, with you. Because love without benefits is the strongest foundation any empire can have. Her tears turned into quiet sobs against his chest. The next morning, Kelvin called a press conference. Cameras flashed, microphones pointed, reporters buzzing like flies. He stood tall, Linda by his side, her hand trembling in his but refusing to let go. I am Kelvin Wilfred, he began. Yes, I disguised myself as a homeless man. Not to deceive, but to discover. I wanted to know if kindness still lived in the city, if love without benefits was possible. And I found it, in her. He looked at Linda, his voice softening. She fed me when I was nothing in her eyes. She gave without gain. And for that, she is worth more than all the billions in my accounts. The hall went silent. Reporters froze. Kelvin raised the grocery list high for everyone to see. This is the truth. Not money. Not bribes. A list written by a daughter who carries her family on her shoulders. Milk. Rice. Medicine. Rent. If you want to call her names, call her what she is, the symbol of a city that still has a heart. Flashes exploded. Some clapped. Some shook their heads. But one thing was certain, the narrative had shifted. Watching from his shabby apartment, Luis spilled his drink. "What?" he spat. He turned it around. "They're clapping." The TV showed Kelvin's words trending with a new hashtag, #LoveWithoutBenefits. Luis's hand shook with rage. No. This isn't over. If kindness won't kill him, then maybe secrets will. He opened a hidden folder on his laptop. Inside were documents darker than gossip, confidential reports about oil contracts, rival companies, and Kelvin's business enemies. His lips curled into a wicked smile. Let's see if love can survive war. Luis had played his last, most dangerous card. Early Monday morning, the news broke. Leaked files, questions around Kelvin Wilfred's oil and gas deals. Anonymous source claims Billionaire's expansion was greased by corruption. Is #LoveWithoutBenefits just a cover for bigger scandals? The city roared. What had started as gossip about a waitress was now dragging Kelvin's billion-dollar empire into the mud. Banks called, investors whispered, rivals circled like vultures. At the top floor of his headquarters, Kelvin's executives filled the boardroom again, panic thicker than smoke. "Sir, regulators are asking questions. Foreign partners are considering freezing deals. Your enemies will use this to crush you." Kelvin stood tall, his hand steady on the table. "Let them come. We have nothing to hide." But the perception, an executive began. Kelvin's voice cut sharp. "Perception is their weapon. Truth will be ours." In her small room, Linda paced, her heart pounding. She wanted to run to Kelvin, to tell him to step back, to protect himself. But she also knew, this was the man who faced oil cartels and corrupt rivals without flinching. Still she whispered a prayer, "Lord, don't let my kindness be the reason he falls." Her mother touched her hand. "Child, love is not the reason for his battles. Love is the reason he'll win them." Kelvin called another press conference, this one bigger, bolder. The hall overflowed with journalists, investors, even regulators. Luis was watching from a dark corner, certain this would be Kelvin's end. But Kelvin stepped to the podium with Linda at his side, their hands linked like steel. "Yes, enemies have released documents," Kelvin said, voice calm but burning. "But let me be clear, my empire was built on sweat, discipline, and strategy.